Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast, those on the Pacific and Central time zones. We want to wish you a good morning. Those following from Israel, Europe, and other parts abroad, a good evening. Today, we are blessed with really one of the special people of the Jewish world, and that's Rabbi Stewart Weiss. Rabbi Stewart Weiss and his wife, Susie, 23 years ago, lost their son, Ari. Ari Weiss was a chovesh during some of the most difficult battles in Jenin, in the Sumerian cities that we have soldiers in right now. And their story, having made Aliyah from the United States of America, developing and building a family in Ra'anana, and the story of Ari and how it changed their world, changed his siblings' world, is a story that we're very blessed to have Rabbi Weiss share with us as this coming week is Yom HaZikaron, is Israel's Memorial Day. And it's not just the experience that Rabbi Weiss and Susie have had that's changed their life irrevocably, but it's the incredible heroism on behalf of both of them in terms of how they've been there for others, how they've been role models to others, how they've supported others over the course of the last 23 years. And we want to thank Rabbi Weiss, who's joining us from Israel, and we want to thank him, for his openness, his candor, and for the opportunity for us to learn, for us to be sensitive, and for us to grow as Jews, as supporters of the IDF. Rabbi Weiss, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I would not refer to us as heroes. I think the soldiers are the real heroes. We just deal with the situation, and we try to honor the memory of those who served and continue to serve. And as I say, they are really the backbone of Israel. And in my opinion, they, on a spiritual level, their self-sacrifice, I think, is what allows us to keep going and to maintain this country against almost insurmountable odds, no matter what we face. And so I would want to give them the credit, not to us, although I certainly think my wife is heroic in many ways. I'll tell you just a bit about Ari. He was really a kind of almost, what word shall I use? A typical teenager. He loved sports, very good at sports, and loved music, meeting with friends. And I always say that he's a good role model for so many people because he wasn't a macho kind of person. He wasn't particularly muscular or large, but he felt, that he had to contribute, and he wanted to be in a combat unit. He ended up in an elite anti-terror combat unit. But he felt, I have to do whatever I can. He is a product of schools that almost all the young men come out wanting to serve in the most difficult of units. And he gave of himself. He excelled. It was kind of like a Rocky-like experience where he wasn't sure he would be able to go the distance, but he did, with a lot of encouragement, especially from Susie. And ultimately, he became part of this wonderful unit in what we call Palchan HaNachal, or today it's called, it's a Sayeret company, Sayeret Nachal. And they were involved in a lot of very, very dangerous missions because he began his service 1 month into the Second Intifada. And I remember quite vividly that his commanding officer spoke at the swearing in and the Kumtah ceremony where he's given his beret, and told the parents he's not going to mince any words, that we are headed for some very, very difficult times and challenging times. And 1 month into that period, already there were innumerable dangerous operations and missions. And he was a part of that. He not only succeeded in getting into the unit, but he became the sharpshooter of the unit, and was also an explosives expert. So he was in demand. He was constantly being helicoptered to different missions and um, different battles that were being fought. And for long periods of time, we didn't see him. In his last year, he essentially was home for only one of the Chagim and rarely home for Shabbat. He would give up sometimes his opportunity to be home for Shabbat to other soldiers who he felt needed it more. And he was a very giving kind of person in every way. Very handsome, a lot of friends, boys and girls. He was just a very popular person, but also a very humble person. When he was in one very difficult encounter with terrorists, and he was shot at, and his magazine that holds the bullets, we saw later, had a hole in it because it had been shot, and an inch or two to up or down, he could have been killed. He certainly would have been shot. And when he came home, he said he feels, although he's in a lot of dangerous missions, this one in particular, his life was saved. He wanted to go and bench Gomel. For those who don't know, just to say this prayer of thanks when you are spared from harm. And he said to me, I don't want to go to any of the shuls, any of the Batei Knesset that we normally go to. I don't want people to think that I'm bragging about the things I've done. And so we went to a place where nobody knew us, and he asked to be able to have an Aliyah and to say Birkat HaGomel. It was just something emblematic of the kind of person that he was. So he served for 26 months, and he could have stepped back after 24 months and let some of the new recruits take on some of the more dangerous missions. But he felt he was trained, and he had a lot of expertise, and he felt it's important for me to make use of what I've been taught to do. So he did not step back. His Menpei, his commanding officer, said he never really thought twice about that. He just went out and did it. And ultimately, on a very important mission where the IDF uncovered the headquarters of Hamas in Shechem. Shechem is what we call Avi Avot Hatuma. That's where the terrorism really comes from. It's Jenin as well, but I'd say even more so from Shechem. Biblically, it's a place where many murderers were. It was an Ir Miklat, a city of refuge, and today a lot of murderers there as well. In any case, they went on this mission. He had actually come home for the first Chag in a year, because his grandparents, Susie's parents, who were survivors of Auschwitz, they had come to visit, and he had said he needed to see them. He wanted to see them, and he insisted on coming back for 2 days. And then he, after those 2 days of Sukkot, he left to go back, and this mission began. And near the end of the mission, a firefight broke out with terrorists, and he actually, one of his best friends was shot first. He rushed to help him, and Ari was shot, and he was killed. And his friend survived, but he remains today disabled. He's in a wheelchair, although he's rebuilt his life. He has a son. One of his sons is named for Ari. Actually, we have 19 children named for Ari so far, from the family and from outside the family. So we call them our children as well. We have pictures of them. And I would say he died just short of his 22nd birthday. He was 21. He was killed on September 30th. His birthday was 3 weeks later, on the 24th of Tishrei, and we miss him. He's inspiration to us, of course, and to many other people. Many wonderful things have been done in his memory, in addition to these children. Too many to mention, but the largest Beit Knesset in the city of Renana. We have 106 synagogues in Renana, but the largest one is named for him, Ohel Ari, and it has more than 1,000 people coming on Shabbat, 6 different minyanim, and wonderful activities. It has a Sioni Zionist kollel of 12 young men studying to be rabbis. And so a lot of things have been done to give honor to Ari. He was not a person who sought any kind of recognition, as I said, but as we know, haborech min hakavod, hakavod borech lo. You run away from honor and honor pursues you. So that's more or less our story about Ari. But I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss any issues you'd like to.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, and please feel free to say no if you do not want to answer them. The first 2 questions are the impact on his siblings, and then the impact on you and Susie, his parents. Those are the first 2. And then the third question is, over the years, you've been there for so many other families that have gone through the unthinkable. And if you could describe to us what that is like, those encounters when you and Susie sit with them, cry with them, are there for them, look after them.
Okay. Well, Ari has 5 brothers and sisters, and all kids have their own identities and their own personalities, and they react differently. Some of the kids are very quiet about it, and they don't often talk about it, but I think they're okay. They have their own way of grieving, and Ari was the peacemaker in the family, so everybody loved him. And so they're all affected deeply by it, but in different ways. Some of the kids are very active themselves in speaking and participating in all kinds of events. We have one son in the East Coast, and he's looking forward to the Israel Day Parade, where he always takes a central part in that, and he speaks quite often in different places in America and in different schools. And so each of them in their own way deal with it. Everybody is affected in one way or another, and they just don't show it in the same ways, but it's had a deep effect on everyone. All of them, thank God, are married, and their first child they named after Ari. So that's a constant reminder to them. And we're very proud of them as well. There's no jealousy there. It's all kavod that they want to show for Ari because he was very beloved. For Susie and I, well, what can I say? I can't really transmit what it's like to lose a child in the prime of life, somebody who would never marry, would not go on to have any children. And certainly I think he would have been a wonderful father and husband. So it's not an easy pill to swallow. On the other hand, I think that we decided early on that we would be very open about the loss, that we would not hide our feelings. We decided we would not take any drugs to deaden the sensation. And I think that for us, it's been therapeutic to speak to others and try to share what little wisdom we might have, We try to tell families and I wouldn't say guarantee, but more or less promise them that their lives can continue and will continue, that they'll have an opportunity to laugh again, to be happy, to celebrate and enjoy life. Even though when you lose a child, the family unit is never complete. We think about Yaakov when he lost or thought he lost Yosef, and he said, I will go down to the grave grieving. And when he was told, but you have 11 other children. And he said, yeah, but it's a set. And when any part of the set is missing, then the picture is incomplete. And so at family gatherings, we feel it very deeply that he's not there. And he is there, but he isn't there. And we struggle to get through life. But I think that our attitude is very positive about Israel, certainly about the Army. We believe very strongly in the Army. We know that things perhaps could have been different, but we understand that in life and certainly in war, tragedies occur. And when we meet with other families, as I said, we try to serve as maybe some kind of a model that life does go on. And every family has to decide how they're going to deal with it. If they're going to be involved, be public about it, be involved in different support groups, or if they're going to try to more or less survive on their own. And everybody, they're going to be private people, public people, etc. But for us, we're more or less, even though we're going to a conference for 3 days starting tomorrow, dealing with bereaved families and participating in all kinds of sessions there. Normally speaking, we try to continue our life as normal as it can be, because normalcy is a way of saying that we did not succumb to this disaster and would not give any enjoyment to the people who would like to take that away. And I think that's an important point. We don't want to give any kind of sense of victory to terror. So by going forward, we're basically sending a message: you cannot defeat us. And I think the families we've met, they're very heroic, and they're very strong people. We're a strong country. We're a strong society. And that's what keeps us going, and hopefully will continue until this latest crisis is solved in our favor.
Another question, whether it's Ari's officers, Ari's peers from the unit, it's 23 years. Do you have a relationship with some of them, an ongoing relationship?
Yeah, we have a pretty good relationship with many of them. They'll come together this week on Yom HaZikaron after the cemetery and the ceremony there. They'll come back here to the house. Most of his unit they stay together, I think, because of Ari. They participated in a program called Peace of Mind, where they were taken. It's a program that helps you cope with trauma, and that also helped to keep them together as a unit. And we love them. I've officiated the weddings of several of them, including his friend who was wounded with him and who is confined to a wheelchair. And I was privileged to do that wedding, where he was very, very emotional, because he had a special device that allowed him, although he is paralyzed from the waist down, that allowed him to an apparatus to actually walk down the aisle and to break the glass. And so, yeah, it's difficult to see them growing up and having children and knowing that Ari could have been there, but for the grace of God or for the decision of Hashem. So it's bittersweet, but we try to put a good face on, and they're very wonderful people. He had a fantastic group of friends and fellow soldiers, and they're doing good things. They're doing great things. So, yeah, I think that's painful sometimes, but very helpful to us to keep that link to Ari, and it helps to keep his memory alive and to, further our belief that he really was a person that had an positive effect on his friends, and he chose friends well. And whether it's his school friends or his army friends or, people here in the community. So, yeah, it's I think something that, as I said, can be painful, but at the same time, it's very rewarding when you see his friends, you're actually seeing a bit of him. And we watch some of the videos about him together and tell stories about him. So, yeah, it's a good moment that we have at least once a year, if not more.
I'll say this as an observer and outsider, that 23 years later, it's a statement about your family. It's a statement about they're no longer young men, but his peers, that connection has transcended 23 years is really something powerful about all of you.
Yeah, we still have quite a large group that comes on his yahrzeit to the cemetery. I think Ari was one of the first, if not the first, Anglo Israeli who fell in battle. And so I think the entire Anglo community of Renana, and maybe extended even further, this is a special happening for them, because maybe they imagined it could have been one of them, and it was kind of their entry, baptism by fire into what serving in the army can result in. And so I think there was a deep camaraderie between the community and us, kind of rallying around us, because they hadn't experienced anything like this before. And we're still quite amazed by the numbers of people who will come out. And if we ever do any support and do any programs, they will all turn out and still want to maintain that connection.
A question for you, and understand that most of us participating in this briefing or watching it, after getting the email, don't really have a sensitivity to Yom HaZikaron. We all know what it is. Many of us have been in Israel more than once on Yom HaZikaron. But it's a very different day for an Israeli, for a family that sent their children to the army. And obviously in Israel, there's no one that it doesn't know someone who's been lost in the context of war. Can you describe for a population of those participating in that day, what it's like as a parent, what it's like, both the negative and the positive, in terms of obviously the feelings, but also the support, the sense that the country is with you, if you can describe that?
Well, yeah, there is certainly a tremendous amount of respect that comes from the country at large, particularly on days like Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaTzmaut, and the community rallies around you on those days. And we actually sometimes would prefer that we don't have that kind of attention. It's the club that nobody wants to be a part of. But it is, at the same time, it is very embracing. So it does help us to get through it. I think that anyone who loses a child, God forbid, lo aleinu, in whatever scenario, it creates this tremendous challenge. I always say that, when you lose a parent, a wall goes up behind you, and that era is closed. When you lose a sibling, God forbid, so a wall goes up on the side of you. But when you lose a child, the wall goes up in front of you, because, that's the future. That was going to be something ongoing. And you have to develop strategies to climb that wall. And there's no one perfect answer, but everybody has got to, you will limp through life, but you find a way to keep going, and you develop strategies for survival. So everyone who goes through that, whether they're in Israel or not, they're going to have to encounter and face it. In Israel, there's obviously a type of national mood that kind of treats bereaved parents with kid gloves. And as I say, that's a double-edged sword, because not everybody wants to be treated that way, and other people find it, as I say, very necessary for their survival. So it's a day that's, in many homes, it's you could all call it a holy day, comparable to our other Yomim Noraim. And we at the same time, we understand that it has to merge into the festivities of Yom Ha'atzmaut. That's a difficult transition for us. For many years, we did not participate in festive Yom Ha'atzmaut celebrations. We just really didn't feel it was natural for us. Now after 2 decades, it's a little bit different. So we'll go to a Yom Ha'atzmaut barbecue. We used to go, and we used to go to the movies on Yom Ha'atzmaut, and we would be the only people in the theater many times. Now I think all the theaters are closed on Yom Ha'atzmaut, so we can't even do that. But that was just a little bit too high-powered for us to get involved. But now it's mellowed somewhat, and we will do more participation on Yom Ha'atzmaut. But we don't want people who come from outside of Israel and meet us then. We don't want them to feel in any way intimidated. We're not superhuman people. We're not, we're still people that you can talk to, and we don't mind if people ask us questions, and we don't want people to cross the street when they see us coming. That's much more uncomfortable. And we try to project that and tell people, this is what happened, but we're still ordinary human beings, more or less. So we don't want to necessarily be treated in any kind of exceptional way. We're doing what we do, and life goes on. Everybody has their challenges, and you play the hand that's given to you, and that's more or less what we decided to do.
We want to thank you, first of all, for your openness. And we also, not that we're trying to be flattering or condescending, but we want to thank you for all the families that you've helped. And the reality is, when you speak, they can hear it, they can listen. You're not an outsider. And tragically, you've had to walk in those shoes, and you've been where they've been. And we know that you and Susie have been a source of incredible comfort, support, wisdom, and guidance for so many. And we thank you for that. And we thank you for your openness, for your ability to share with us and just give us a small amount of insight. You know, in America, as you well remember, Memorial Day it's barbecues. Memorial Day is sales at the mall. Memorial Day is going to ball games. Memorial Day is everything that it's not supposed to be. There's just not enough respect for our American GIs. And when you see Yom HaZikaron Rome, and you see how a country has gratitude, has reverence, has thoughtfulness and sensitivity to those who've made the ultimate sacrifice, and to their families, their survivors, it's everything that Memorial Day should have been.
Yeah, I thank you. You're quite right. And the hope is that we will not have to experience this. I remember when Ari first came, he was 12 years old, and they had a school play, and he was chosen to play the part of a soldier. And so we borrowed a uniform, an IDF uniform, which he basically was swimming in, because at that time he was quite little. He grew a lot in every way. And I remember I turned to Susie and said, "Do you think he's going to need that uniform in 6 years when he's 18?" And every family hopes that their child will, when they become of military age, at least there won't be a war. Maybe there won't even be a need for war, but that hasn't happened yet. And so, no pun intended, you bite the bullet and you make that decision that you're going to stick with it, and you're going to, at some point, enter your child into the army and be proud of him or her. And I think that's courage that permeates the society, and one of the reasons why we are a blessed country, because we have given of ourselves, and the support that comes from America, from organizations like your own, they are no less worthy and responsible for the ongoing existence and success and life of Israel. So we thank you as well.
Please send our warmest regards to Susie. And we, on behalf of all of us at the Friends of the IDF, we want to thank you. We want to thank you for being a role model, and we want to thank you for your thoughtfulness this evening.
Pleasure to do it, and we should only hear good news, and hopefully bring the hostages back, end this war victoriously, and move on to a greater future.
Amen.
Amen.